Hi, this is Synthchaser from Synthchaser.com. Look what we have here today. It's an ARP 16 voice electric piano. You don't see these very often. So I got this a while ago and I never even turned it on. And I turned it on and there is no output. The membrane panel seems to work, but no output. So let's see if we can figure that out. And we're in. So I do have the service manual for this, but I haven't looked at it yet. And so it looks like we have two boards up here that handle the polyphonic gating and the divide down top octave generator, octave divider type stuff that must be going on in here. And from the back, we must have a board down here that does some kind of filtering. There's a little resistor matrix there that probably handles the presets. Looks like there's probably some output stage here and the power supply here. So not a lot going on in there, but this doesn't look like it was cheap for them to make back in 1981 or whenever they did it. And no doubt the failure of the company was influenced by this instrument. One good thing is at least they learned by now, and they're not using any tantalum capacitors. It's all electrolytic. And film. Even this really sketchy looking electrolytic capacitor here. So let's start at the top and work our way down. So this is a top octave divider scheme like ARP Omni and Polymoog and other synthesizers like that. So you have a top octave generator or several top octave generators that are then making the notes, which are gated by these keyer boards. And the clock for that top octave generator comes in from the power supply board. So let's go check the power supply board. We'll check the voltages and we'll make sure that we're getting that clock. So there's a ground line there that's marked, the plus 15 volt. And I measured about 15 volts there. And then there's two fixed regulators, a plus and minus 12 volt regulators mounted there on the panel in the back, and they both had the correct voltage. So the power supply checking out okay. Now let's check out the high frequency VCO. So this is basically the master clock for the top octave generators. And you can see it's influenced by the master tune knob, which comes from the control panel. And it spits out a high frequency wave, which then some other stuff here, they call it frequency shifter and interval logic. So I think right here would be a good place to see if we're getting the high frequency VCO coming out of this block and moving over to this block. And I don't see anything oscillating. So looks like we've already narrowed it down here to the high frequency VCO section. So I wiggled the master tune and could see that the input here to this chip was changing. So really the only thing we have is this 3086 and the single transistor. So we've narrowed it down pretty quickly. So I'm going to pull this out and see which of the two is bad. And in fact, one of the transistors in the transistor array has gone bad, specifically Q5 here. So we can test these transistors individually with our multimeter on diode setting. So I'll show you the good transistor first. So this is Q4, so I'm going to put my red lead on pin 9, and I'm going to test pin 10 and pin 11, and I get one diode drop and the multimeter beeps. If I flip it around, I should have open circuit. Nothing should happen. There you go. So that transistor Q4 is good. Now I'll show you the bad transistor, Q5. So I'm going to put my red lead on the base, which is pin 12, and I'm going to test the collector and the emitter. And I have nothing and nothing. So that transistor has gone open. And we'll replace this transistor array, and hopefully we'll have some life on our oscillator. And I changed the transistor array. I put a known good one into a socket. And I put that transistor back and we're ready to test it out. Alright, let's fire it up and test it out. And already I hear some sound. It's droning. So we have we fixed that problem, and now we've unearthed the next problem, which is this droning noise. But it looks like things aren't too bad. Let's see. One other thing I noticed. Two other things I noticed. One is this key isn't doing so well. And then the other thing is I noticed where it breaks between the lower and the upper keying trays, there's a difference in sound. So I have three things that I have to look into. So as I was troubleshooting the noise in the output, the problem got easier to find. I have turned the amp down because it's very, very loud. But there's this very loud sine wave. You can hear it very loud relative to the piano notes being played. So it's very easy to spot now. So long story short, I tracked the problem down to this board, the upper keyer board. And I knew it was this board because when I disconnected the ribbon cable to the board down below with the resonators and whatnot, the noise problem went away. So in addition to finding a bad op amp, I found that one of these 4 keyer chips was leaking waveforms when no key was pressed. These are an AMI S10430 chip. So the amplitude of the waveform sneaking through seemed to ebb and flow. And these keys are also responsible for gating the notes, and if you recall, I had one note out that was generated by this board. So I was able to quiet the noise down by pulling the top octave generator above the bad keyer chip. And since there's actually 2 top octave generators making a tone for each note that you play on the keyboard, I still got sound over all the keys, except the bad one. But you could hear a difference between the upper notes that were made by this board and the lower notes made by the problem-free board over to the left. So this AMI S10430 is a fairly scarce chip that I don't have a spare of, because nothing I really work on uses that. But fortunately I have a whole second ARP 16 voice electric piano, and my other one isn't in as nice shape cosmetically, and if I recall, a couple of the membrane panel switches are bad. So I actually took the upper keyer board from that other piano and put it in here. And now there's no unusual noise. There's still a fair amount of background hiss, which is inherent to these instruments, but now everything is working, so I'm going to give you a brief demo of the features and the sounds. So this is the control panel. There's a jack H for headphones. There's a volume control, tone control, there's a phaser that you can turn on with this button. So this is the piano sound without the phaser and with the phaser. You can control the sweep speed and the resonance of the phaser. There's Master Tune. And there's a separate detune control. You can specify whether you want the pedal to make the volume softer or to engage the vibrato effect. Here's the vibrato effect. You can turn that on and you can control the speed and depth of vibrato. So here's piano without vibrato and with vibrato. One cool thing is the keyboard is velocity sensitive. Just like a real piano. So it's called the 16 voice electric piano because there's 16 different voice selections that you can make here. And I'll run you through them without any of the phaser or vibrato effects that you can add. Starting here with P for piano. videos back, I gave a walkthrough of the Sequential Circuits Piano Forte electric piano. In my opinion, the ARP electric piano sounds a lot better, and there's a lot more going on under the hood on these than the Sequential Circuits one. I hope you enjoyed this look at the ARP 16-voice electric piano. If you're looking to get one, drop me a line on my website, synthchaser.com, and be sure to join me as we take a look at other vintage synthesizers. This has been Synthchaser from synthchaser.com. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.